All right, everyone. Good to see everyone out there. Hopefully you're safe and sound. What a ridiculous week this has been in this country. So maybe a little bit later I'll give my quick commentary on the state of the current affairs. But we're here to talk college football, and I hope you will jump on the line, and I hope this is a good time for everyone, because we have set Sunday nights at 10 o'clock Eastern time to be the time that we take your calls specifically, and it's my aim to do it a number of times throughout the week, not just once, but would like to talk to you a number of times throughout the week. But this is the one time that I guarantee, next to guarantee, depending on other circumstances, that I will be here each and every Sunday night at 10 o'clock Eastern time to take your calls on college football. Want to let everyone know that the Super Chat's available to contribute to the channel. You can do it directly, though. You can contribute to MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. If you've caught the vision, what we're trying to accomplish here is to do this full throttle, full time, all the time. And you can't imagine what the improvements would be if that were the case. Full throttle, full time, all the time. Contribute and by going to Venmo or PayPal. Venmo or PayPal, just search MarkRogersTV. We are simulcasting right now on Facebook Live. So if you're joining us on Facebook, that's a good thing at MarkRogersTV. For my many viewers and supporters, I appreciate you jumping on board, whether that be on YouTube or on Facebook. But either way, give me a like on Facebook. That, again, always helps the cause. We're on Twitter at MarkRogersTV. And if you follow me on Twitter, then you can take part in the polls. You can take part in the polls regardless, but you can actually create one of the polls that I will post on Twitter. Not one, many. You can just suggest polls, and we'll get them there. Oh, my goodness, my goodness. Let me give me timeout. Just a quick timeout here, folks. All right, let's jump into the comments section. I don't have necessarily any specific topic, and my voice is really strained this weekend. I don't know what the deal is, but I don't necessarily have any specific topic to throw out there. A few things we can always talk about. Coaches on the hot seat. Throw that one out there, and I will certainly give my opinion on coaches on the hot seat, what they need to do to keep their job. The overrated and the underrated, whether that means on the playing field or on the sidelines, the coaches, the players, the underrated, the overrated. But I will always ask you, when you say somebody's overrated or underrated, you're going by what? Best matchups of the season. We're going to release a video here very soon on the North Carolina-Auburn matchup. I'm intrigued. I'm fascinated by the Tar Heels this season, and Luke will be very happy with me to make that comment, that I'm very intrigued with North Carolina football this year, and also our X factors. So an X factor is a guy that you don't know which way he's going to break. Good season, bad season, but he is key to the success of his football team. And when I think X factor, the first person I think of plays for Penn State, plays quarterback at Penn State. So for the Nittany Lions to have any chance of overtaking Ohio State in the Big Ten, Sean Clifford has to be considerably better. He's got the arm talent, he's got the size, he's got the durability in terms of stature to be a big-time quarterback. He didn't give us the accuracy, especially in the big games against the better teams. He was not good against Pitt, Minnesota, Ohio State, and others. Iowa, not really good in those games. The running backs did all the work against Memphis. He went 11 of 20 in that game. Sean Clifford has to be better. He is the X factor. He is the X factor in the Big Ten for me. Sean Clifford. Again, we're on Facebook Live. So if you're on Facebook Live watching us right now, here's the deal is that you can't take part in the live chat, unfortunately, on Facebook Live. So jump on over to YouTube and you can join in the live chat. And what happens when you get in the live chat is that you can leave a comment, a question, or a debate topic. So right out of the gate, we've got Nate. Good to see you, Nate. Also, Murder Blaze 9. Murder Blaze, I gotta say, thank you so much for being so consistent in encouraging everyone to like and subscribe. You guys just can't imagine how important it is that you like the videos and subscribe if you want me to continue doing this. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, who's on the line?
NT8 back at you, buddy.
Oh, man, Tom, you have been quick on the trigger recently.
Damn Skippy, I'm holding up late tonight for some reason.
You're holding up late? This is late?
We've got curfew everywhere, so I just wanted to bring up to you that they're talking about June 8th, that you were talking with the Ohio State guys.
Yes.
So I'm looking at 8 days away, and the way this is going over this George Floyd deal, yeah. I mean, we're in a curfew in Omaha and Council Bluffs, Iowa, and I'm just like, you've got the COVID-19 going on, and now you've added this. Not you adding, I'm just saying, just adding this other deal that's going on. And man, I'm just like thinking they're rioting down in Lincoln, Nebraska. Columbus, Nebraska, or Columbus, Ohio. Des Moines been rioted. Lansing did it. I don't know about Ann Arbor, but it's just stuff that I keep adding in, and I keep looking at what's going on. Atlanta, Philadelphia. I'm just like, you know what? I'm honestly getting to the point thinking that nobody's going to go to these. They're not going to allow any college football games.
All right, Tom, let's think of a few things here. So
just to override that COVID-19. So go ahead with it.
Well, a few things to consider here, Tom. So you're bringing up a great point. The impact, we don't know what it's going to be. But let's keep in mind that when we've seen these rioting situations, these violent protests, not talking about the peaceful protests, that's a great thing. That's people getting out there and exercising their rights. But talking about the violence that's going on, I don't want to be too optimistic about this, but let's consider how quickly they've died down in the past. You know, they haven't gone on for weeks and weeks and weeks. It's a 2 or 3 or 4 day or night activity, and then it ceases. That's what's happened in the past.
All right. Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
Do you realize there's 17 states that have already activated the National Guard to back up the police?
Yeah, it's a horrible situation.
And how long do you think that'll last? Just like 3-4 days? I think that's going to go at least 2 weeks. So for that June 8th thing, oh man, this is getting horrible.
Well, it is horrible.
But I'm not trying to bang on you on it. I'm just bringing up the subject in my head, and so I want to let you go with it, and I'll let you go with it on your own.
So for example, Tom.
Thank you, my friend, dude.
So for example, Tom, in your area, when is the curfew? What is the curfew?
Started at 8 o'clock. It's 9:11 here now.
So, well, think about this.
So now I can look out. Now I can look out the front door, and nobody's even driving up and down the street.
Sure. Well, let's understand this. Okay, so let's not talk about the situation in regards to what the situation is on the street and so forth. We're just talking about athletics. We're talking about football and how it's impacting football. And you've brought forth the concern about it impacting students on campus and so forth. Well, let's understand that these athletes, number one, I'm taking Ohio State's circumstances as an example. As best I understand it, on June 8th, they're going to start allowing athletes on campus. They're not all going to rush onto campus at the same time. They're only allowing a handful of athletes in the athletic building at the same time because of COVID. And then also, we're not talking about athletes going into the facilities at midnight to try to work out. This is going to be a daytime activity, like a 9 to 5 kind of activity that they're going to bring in 8 or 10 athletes at a time to work out for a couple hours, usher them off campus, and then bring in the next batch, the next wave.
Now I don't hear you.
Oh, you can't hear me? I'm sorry, Tom. You can't hear me?
Just on my phone, I couldn't hear you at all because I've got the computer turned
That's
off
unfortunate. I'm
volume.
having phone problems. That's not good. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you now.
Okay. So basically what I said is just understand this is going to be a daytime activity with these workouts by these athletes. They're not going to be going to the athletic complex at midnight. Can you hear me, Tom?
And now they're a win again.
I think that's
Anyway, I'm going to let you go with it, and I'll turn the volume back on the computer or turn the volume on the computer, and I'll listen to your response.
All right, Tom.
No discussion really needed.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I just wanted to bring that up and throw it at you and let you roll with it.
It's a great talking point. No doubt. All right, Tom. Have a
All
good
right,
night.
my friend. Talk to you later.
I appreciate it. It's our guy, Tom. Hopefully we don't have a phone issue tonight, or we'll have kind of an issue. I believe once you have a call-in show and you have phone issues, that could be a problem. Let me think about that. So Tom is basically bringing up the unrest that's going on, the rioting and the violence all over the country and the curfews and how that's going to affect the athletes coming on campus. I would never say that it's not going to have an impact. And again, we're not getting into the political portion of this or the social unrest. We're just talking about the college football end of it. These athletes, number one, they're not going to be flooding on campus on June 8th. Taking Ohio State June 8th as an example, they're going to be just allotted on campus in small increments, and it's going to be during the day, not during the curfew time. All right, MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, this is Eli.
Eli, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. What's going on?
Not much. I know it's been a while since I called in, but I was kind of wanted to get your opinion on like the coaching hot seats in the Power 5.
Coaching hot seats.
So maybe do it by conference.
Okay, let's do it. You want to serve them up for me?
Okay. So the ACC, so this would be my list of the coaching hot seats. Dave Doran of North Carolina State and Manny Diaz of Miami. What are your thoughts on the ACC's hot seat?
Well, Dave Doran has done a decent job at North Carolina State. He's pretty much accomplishing what you would expect a North Carolina State coach to accomplish. So anybody who's been decent at North Carolina State does the same thing. They all go 7-5 and 8-4. And that's pretty much what he's done, except they plummeted to 1-7 this past season. 1-7 in the ACC and 4-8. So I would think that he would have to have an atrocious season, another similar season to that, for his job to be in jeopardy. So that's what I would think would be the deal. That if he goes 4-8 again, or only wins 1 or 2 games in the ACC, he could be fearing for his job. Manny Diaz, I would think that Miami, there is no reason that roster with some decent coaching shouldn't win 8 or 9 games.
And they were so mediocre last year.
Yeah, they were awful last year. They were generally
with that horrendous offense.
And when I say awful, I mean you say mediocre, that's accurate. But given the talent disparity and advantage they had over just about everybody they played, to go 6-6 in the regular season against that schedule is a bad coaching job. But it's a first-year coaching job, so there should be some consideration given to that. But if he turns in another 6 or 7 win season,
yeah. So because Willie Taggart didn't get much time for Florida State because Miami, just like Florida State, they have high expectations. They don't just accept mediocrity.
You think Florida State is accepting mediocrity?
No, I said they don't accept mediocrity because Florida State got rid of Taggart with less than 2 years.
Yeah.
So I feel like Manny could be kind of the new Willie Taggart.
He could be.
Yeah, like what are your thoughts on it? Like, do you think that? Like, I'm just kind of wondering if you think that. So I don't know.
Well, here's my thought: is that if I'm running the show at Miami, I look at our schedule and say that there are maybe 2 teams on the schedule that have comparable talent to us, and those would be Florida State and North Carolina, in my opinion. Even Michigan State doesn't quite have Miami's talent. It's similar, but it's not quite at that level. It's reasonable to think that they're going to slip up once or twice, but I wouldn't draw a line in the sand in terms of a win total to say, hey, you have to win this many games. But generally, I would think that they have to go 8-4. If I'm running the show, Manny Diaz has to go at least 8-4 to keep his job.
Yeah.
And
do you think of any other coaches in the what?
And if you go 8-4 at Miami, basically, let's say they lose to Florida State and North Carolina. So you've lost to the 2 teams that have comparable talent. So you can't even beat somebody who's as good as you. And that's what they failed to do last year. They didn't beat anyone who was as good as them on the field talent-wise. And then they lost to a bunch of teams that weren't nearly as good. So, for a coach not to be able to outcoach the other coach at all over 2 seasons is pretty bad. Well, in the ACC, if you really look at it, David Cutcliffe has done a nice job at Duke, even though he had a bad season last year. He would have to have a string of bad losses. They're going to tolerate losing to a certain extent at Duke. Jeff Collins is only at Georgia Tech for his 2nd season, so he's got a lot of leeway there. BC's got a new head coach. Dino Babers had a nice season 2 years ago. I think there are a lot of coaches that are 1 season away from the hot seat. If Dino Babers has another bad season, then he sets himself up for 2021 being his hot seat year, for example.
Yeah.
Those kind of situations.
Yeah. Okay. So now in the SEC, I'll give you Moorhead's a Vanderbilt coach, right?
Derek Mason.
Oh, Mason. I was thinking of someone else.
Yeah, you were thinking of the old Mississippi State coach.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So anyways, Vanderbilt. And then Malzahn always seems to be on the hot seat for some reason, even though I feel like he's done a really good job there.
He's done a really good job? Malzahn?
I mean, he went to a national championship game and has 2 SEC titles.
7 years ago. So he doesn't have 2 SEC titles. He has 1.
Oh, 2 division titles.
Yeah, he's got 2 division titles and made it to the championship game. So basically, if you look at Gus Malzahn, that first year was an exceptional coaching job. He took a team that won 3 games and was 0-8 in the SEC, and he won the SEC, the toughest league in the country, and came within 7 seconds of winning the national championship. But since then,
Yeah.
he's basically underachieved every year. When we get off here, look at Gus Malzahn's record, because I am going to be posting my SEC coaches rankings here, Eli, just the next couple days. I got it right here. Gus Malzahn, since 2014, is 26-22 in the SEC. He doesn't do much better than that at Auburn. There's a lot of 7 and 8-4 seasons for him.
Yeah, of course they play in the toughest division in football.
They do, but that's part of the deal.
Yeah. And I guess Muschamp would be the South. Yeah, he's got to be on the hot seat.
Yes,
I mean, South Carolina was awful last
You
year.
hit the two guys.
I know their schedule was tough, but still.
Absolutely. You hit the two guys right there, Malzahn and Muschamp. Again, South Carolina plays a very difficult schedule, but you're playing with the big boys. You got to win. And nobody's asking South Carolina to win 10 or 11 games, but go 8-4. And they've regressed in 2 consecutive years. He had a 9-4 season in 2017, then regressed to 7-6 and 4-8. So he's got to turn it around. Yep.
Yeah, and do you think Vanderbilt's coach? I mean, I know Vanderbilt's really tough to win, so you probably could get more leeway there since it's an academic school. Yeah, that's why. What your thoughts on that are?
I like Derek Mason as a person, as an individual. He seems like a great man who is very invested in the young men and in doing the right things and in molding them as young men. But I don't think Derek Mason's a great football coach. I don't think he's a head coach at that level. I don't think he's done a good job at Vanderbilt. I don't think he's done a deplorable job or an abysmal job, but he's not done a good job. He's 10-38 in the SEC. He's won 10 games out of 48 in the SEC. And he's losing too many games to group of 5 type teams out of conference. And James Franklin went 9-4 2 consecutive years prior to Derek Mason coming in and inheriting that roster. So I don't think Derek Mason did a very good job.
So you think he's on the hot seat?
I don't know if he's on the hot seat because of what you just said. Vanderbilt's very, very forgiving. But if he goes like 3-9, yeah, he could be on the hot seat. But if he gets to a bowl game or maybe 5 wins is going to do it for him, they should be okay with that. And he should be able to keep his job.
Okay. I can't think of any other SEC coaches on the hot seat.
No. Well,
okay, so now the Big Ten. Now in the Big Ten, I'll definitely give you. I think Mike Locksley. I mean, I know it's the second year, but the way Maryland just totally tanked towards the end of last year, I don't know. I think they got to do a lot better if he wants to keep his job.
Yeah, with Maryland,
what do you think of it?
Yeah, with Maryland, it's also just there's not been a good vibe around that program, considering the leadership and all the incidents that have taken place. And those aren't Mike Locksley's issues, but it's kind of curious to me that they would have those kind of off-field issues at Maryland, and then they would bring in a guy who had those kind of off-field issues to a certain extent in New Mexico. Like, I just didn't understand that hire. I didn't think it was a good hire. And he's recruiting pretty well. But, yeah, they want to see some progress there. And they were a train wreck after the second week of the season last year.
I mean, they look so good at the start of the season. For them to just completely wasteland like that, that's kind of an indication that they're not getting any better, that they're getting worse, and that's bad coaching.
Yeah, and we also have to consider the opponents the first 2 weeks. They played Morgan State, and I think it was Morgan State, and Syracuse turned out to be no good.
Yeah.
But I agree, he could be in the hot seat with a really bad year, like a 3-9. He should be gone. He needs to win 5 or 6 games.
Like, he almost reminds me a little bit of Chad Morris in a way.
In what way?
I guess because of the fact that Arkansas kind of had a decent recruiting class under him, but their on-field play was absolutely atrocious. And then as the season went on, they kept getting worse and worse. And they're also considered offensive gurus.
Yeah. The thing that's difficult to evaluate about Chad Morris and really anyone in the SEC, and Will Muschamp's in this boat right now, is that the league's so tough, and especially from a talent perspective, is that South Carolina is bringing in top 20 recruiting classes that are ranked 10th or 11th in the SEC. And Chad Morris is doing not quite that well, but close to that standard. And, you know, you can bring in top 25 or 30 recruiting classes, and they're going to be ranked almost last in the SEC. Therefore, you have the most talent in the conference.
Oh, yeah. And I think Scott Frost, that's one I'm thinking, because Nebraska's real. I mean, they've only won 9 games the last 2 years. It seems like his team's got to be getting pretty warm at least.
For some reason, believe in Scott Frost, but you're right. It's been very disappointing what they have failed to accomplish. The first year, though, I typically think to be a mulligan of sorts, or at least kind of a year zero type of mentality, that we're really not looking at the wins and losses. We're looking at the coach in question building his program and getting things established and building a culture. And they played so well the second 6 games, the back half of the schedule in 2018. It was disappointing to me to see them regress so much in 2019. And they have a really difficult schedule. Their last 6 games are brutal. So they're going to get off to a hot start to put some wins on the books before they most likely hit a string of L's in November. But I would think, again, because he's a favored son, because of what he did at UCF, which I understand to a certain extent the argument had nothing to do with what he's done at Nebraska, but he's shown that he can win as a head coach at a high level, that it would really have to go off the rails for him to get fired this year. I think another disappointing year would put him again in position to truly be on the hot seat in 2021.
Yeah. All right, and I guess Jim Harbaugh, that's one that even though he wins a lot, he's probably, I don't know, I kind of wonder if they have another blowout loss to Ohio State, that could be it for him.
Well, he's a difficult one to make a call on, because we would need to know if the folks in charge are forever going to be appeased by winning 9 and 10 games every year, because most coaches, that is plenty to keep a job, to go 9 and 3 and 10 and 2 every year. But it's embarrassing to get obliterated by your rival every year, and to pay a coach top 5 money in the country, so you're paying him to win championships, and he's just not getting it done.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like he's done a decent job, but it's like, considering the money and Michigan has really high expectations too. So it's like, how much more of losing to Ohio State on a yearly basis are they going to put up with?
Yeah, at some point you're going to have to pull the plug on him. I would think if you are serious about winning championships at Michigan, you're going to say, you can go 10 and 2 forever, but if you're not, and there can be complaints or considerations or excuses made about, well, Ohio State's just that good. And nobody said this stuff's easy. Nobody said it's easy. That's why they get so much money. If we were paying these guys, $75,000 a year, and then being really harsh on them for not winning championships, that would be one thing. But when a guy's being handed, in Jimbo Fisher's case, $75 million over the course of a contract, or Jim Harbaugh's $7 to $7.5 million, well, that's the standard. The standard is compete for championships.
Yeah. And then, do you think of anyone else in the Big Ten that's on the hot seat? Those are the only ones I could come up with.
Lovie Smith had a nice season. Pat Fitzgerald is fully entrenched at Northwestern despite a really bad season last year.
That's a tough place to win.
It is a tough place to win. And everybody else in the divisions, Again, I can't imagine that Jeff Brom would be in a bad place even with another bad season. Again, he would be another guy that would be kind of setting himself up for the crossroads of 2021 with a bad season.
Okay. Yeah, the Big 12, actually, I can't really think of anyone. I mean, it's like either first-year head coaches or coaches that are doing a decent enough job that they're probably not really in trouble unless they have a complete disaster.
Yeah, there are I'm thinking of a lot of mainstays at universities that would just have to go on a horrendous run for a few years to get fired, like a Pat Fitzgerald at Northwestern, Gary Patterson at TCU. He's not going to get fired. He's just not going to get fired.
Yeah.
He's going to have to string together bad seasons because he's just done too much for TCU football. At the bottom of the conference, again, you got Les Miles just getting things started at Kansas. Matt Wells is just getting things started at Texas Tech. This is only his second season. And those are the bottom feeders. The Kansas State coach had a nice first season. With 8 wins. So nobody in the Big 12. I guess.
Yeah, and then
Tom
what?
Herman, maybe.
Well, I thought maybe him. I mean, Texas has been a bit on the disappointing side, but I don't know. It's hard to say. They probably have to really do bad, like go 6-6 or 7-5. Maybe he'd have a. I don't know. It's hard to say with Texas, but that's probably the only one I could maybe think of.
I don't know if you go to Texas and granted he took over a team that wasn't winning, and you go, what'd he do? He went 7-6, then he goes 10-4 and goes to the Big 12 championship game and wins the Sugar Bowl. So he's on the uptick, and then he slides back to 8-5 last year. If he throws in another, 8-5, 7-6 season, it is Texas. They put up with Charlie Strong losing he had 4 losing seasons, I believe. Charlie Strong.
Yeah. Yeah, and then the Pac-12, I guess I could think of 3 right now. Kevin Sumlin, Chip Kelly, and Clay Helton.
Yeah, there you go. Chip Kelly, it would be a 3rd consecutive bad season. Kevin Sumlin, Arizona doesn't expect too much, but they've been fairly bad for 2 years, have missed bowl games twice under him, which it's not difficult to get to a bowl game and shouldn't be in that division. And Clay Helton. Yeah, so they give him a contract extension coming off an 8-5 season. Yeah. And we're talking about the football results playing into this. It also has to do a lot with the buyout money, and it has to do with who they think could be on the market that they would want to go get, especially at the higher tiers, at the USC type jobs where they think, okay, maybe there's somebody available that we really want to go after.
I mean, it seems like a place like USC. I mean, that's another place that has really high expectations. That just doesn't seem like 8-5, 7-6 type seasons that they'll put up with it for that long there.
Yeah, and he's hit 2 of those in a row: 5-7, 8-5 the last 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, if it's Arizona, that's good enough. But USC, I mean, that's like one of the blue bloods. So yeah, it just seems like that's a place that has very high expectations, high standards. I mean, well, like I don't know. I was hearing all about the Urban Meyer rumors, which never happened.
No, it didn't. And based on people that I know that know USC football and are right there at the university, that was just a bunch of talk. And Urban Meyer never really was serious about that situation just because he doesn't like the lay of the land in regards to the facilities and the administration and their seriousness about football or lack thereof.
Yeah. I mean, did Clay Helton bring in like a terrible recruiting class last cycle?
Yes. Yeah, it was like 52nd in the nation. It was awful.
I mean, how do you have 52nd recruiting class in the nation when you're USC? I mean, they should easily get like top 20 to 25 classes easily.
The year before was pretty disappointing at number 20. Now, what's strange is that from the time he took the job, he had 2 top 5 recruiting classes in a row. And what?
Yeah.
So I got to think that his job status and his contract status had something to do with that bad of a recruiting class. That's not an excuse because other coaches have to put up with that type of talk out there. But they're doing much better this time around.
Yeah, but it seems like USC should be able to sell itself.
You would think so.
I mean, you think like as far as just program prestige, I mean, I feel like the only team in the conference that would be on their level in terms would be maybe Oregon.
Sure, and Washington's obviously been a contender for most of the last 40 years.
And they're not even in their division.
Sure. And UCLA, they're a mystery. I don't know why they're not that good.
Maybe Chip Kelly's washed up.
We had a really good conversation with our UCLA guy a couple weeks ago about Chip Kelly. Did a nice long video, just kind of because I had the same question. I'm like, what's up with Chip Kelly? He had a great run at Oregon. And what is fascinating to me is that if you take the 4 recruiting classes on the roster at Oregon for Chip Kelly's last year at Oregon, and you look at those recruiting rankings versus the roster that he inherited at UCLA for Jim Mora, it's almost identical. They're right around 15th to 18th in the country, their recruiting rankings that are on that 4 years of roster. And he's awful at UCLA. They're terrible. Terrible.
Yeah.
All right, Eli, I appreciate it. I got a couple people lined up here on the call, so thanks for joining.
All right. Thank you. Have a good one.
You too. I apologize, folks. I missed your call. So I had 2 calls coming in with Eli, and there we go. Thank you so much for calling back. I appreciate that. We will be professional at some point and take these calls the right way. But MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's DeAndre. How you doing?
Hey, DeAndre. I'm good. How are you?
I am doing excellent. Doing excellent, man. And hopefully you being safe out there. All nonsense going out here. Call you back in a few minutes, then I'll let you.
Looks like I'm coming back. Maybe I'm back. Give me a look here in about 5 seconds. You tell me if I'm up and running here.
Yep.
All right, folks. I apologize. I don't know what happened. My laptop just died. It just all went dark. So fortunately, I'm back and back. It did that a couple months ago one time. All right, DeAndre, back to football. What's on your mind?
Well, I just saw what Ohio State fans say that Jamie Newman is overrated. I totally disagree with him. Not because he's an Ohio State fan, but I see a lot of Jamie Newman's games. He's pretty good. I mean, he plays in the ACC, but he plays in the smallest school in the whole division.
Sure.
Football. I mean, I think what Forest only has like 2,000 or 3,000 kids, and a very high academic standards. So I think he's really good, and that's why he went to Georgia for him to show. I don't know why everybody's like so big on Georgia, and I don't want to disrespect Georgia. They have some hell of a recruits. So guys coming in, but it just never seems like they put it together. Even it's been Mark Rick or Kirby Smart. I mean, I remember growing up in the 80s, remember how good Georgia is, but to me, they always seem like they get there and they flounder, and I can't figure out why. I mean, everybody keeps saying, well, they play the SEC. Well, they play the SEC East, and to me personally, in the last couple of years, Florida's been down, Tennessee's been down, and Missouri's one that came over winning 2 of their championships, and they won all that. So I just don't get why people are so flexed on Georgia next year, the next couple of years. I mean, they got the talent, but Kirby Smart seems like he can't get it done, and I think they have a pretty hard schedule next year.
Okay, DeAndre. So I'm gonna back us up here. So you said that Georgia never seems to put it together. What do you mean by that?
I mean, as far as winning national championships, I know they're a good program, but I'll give you an example. I think it was Stanford's senior year, and they were like number 1 in the nation. I think they finished the season like 5-7 or something like that. Something crazy.
Who was 5-7?
Remember the year that Georgia started out number 1 in the whole nation? I can't remember what year it was.
Went 5-7?
Stanford was there. Yeah. What did they finish as?
What year are we? How far are we going back?
I'm talking about recent. Like it was that Stanford was there and AJ Green. Those guys.
Okay.
I just don't think Georgia ever puts it together.
Okay. Well, just talking about the Kirby Smart era, because he's obviously not responsible for what happened before him. So if you go past his 8-5 season, his first year, they've been an exceptional program. I don't understand the criticism of Georgia because he came within an eyelash of winning a national championship. It's not like this has been going on for 7 or 8 years.
Right.
He's basically had 3 seasons. So he had his first year, they go 8-5. That's just his first year. Then boom, they go to the national championship game and they come within a whisker of winning the national championship. They're in overtime against Alabama. It's not like they went to the national championship game and looked horrible and got blown out. They may have had the best team in the country.
Wow.
They looked like they had the best team in the country. Then the next year, they blow a 2-touchdown lead in the SEC championship game to Alabama, but they play a great game against Alabama. They finish in the top 5 again. And then this past year, they go to the SEC championship game and they win the Sugar Bowl. Like, I know that he needs to get it done at some point, but it's only been 3 years, and he's right there.
But isn't he doing the same thing that Mark Richt has done?
He's doing it all the time, though. Mark Richt was doing it some of the time. Mark Richt would have that kind of a season, have a couple of those kind of seasons. Then he would have a couple like 8-4 years, and then he would come back and have really, really top 5 type teams. And Mark Richt had a really good run. If you look at the numbers that I ran, were 9 top 10 finishes in 15 years. But he never closed the deal.
Right. Well, everybody keeps talking about how good they're going to be next year. I'm kind of interested. They got a lot of talent, but unless he changes that offense, I know he would have got a lot more. They go to something like a spread or something next year. We're going to see what they're going to do, but I don't know about Georgia sometimes. It'll be interesting to see what's going to happen with them. There was another team I'm about to ask you about. Oh, man. Ohio State fans, I don't like picking on them a lot nowadays because it's over and I'm ready to start a new season. But they kill me with all these excuses of why they lost to Clemson in the championship game, man. I'm just like, man, you lost the game. I mean, everybody can point out plays and they will call why they would have won or lost a game, man. I mean,
well, DeAndre, let's do this. Let's do this. Okay. Help me out here a little bit. Just play along with me. Try to be either an Ohio State fan for a minute or just reverse roles and say you're Mr. Clemson, big Clemson fan, and all of that happened the other way around. How would you feel if you watched the game that you watched, but it was all in reverse? And one of you,
I thought Ohio State should have won the game. I really do I thought they should have won the game, but also you got to start going for field goals. Sometimes you got to take that chance and try to go for it and go for the jerk.
yeah. So I want people to hear me.
Yeah.
I want people to hear me correctly on this. Clemson put together the 94-yard drive to win the game. Clemson intercepted the pass in the end zone that clinched the game. Clemson has no excuses to say, you know, we shouldn't have won the game, or we weren't as good as them, or we got lucky. They have no reason to say any of those things. But some games are more gifted to the other team than others. And, you know, Clemson's talent, their coaching ability, all those things had absolutely nothing to do with the breaks that they received in that game, if you follow me. Like,
I totally agree with you, but
like the targeting play and the running into the punter had nothing to do with Clemson's ability. That could have been Rutgers out there, and they were still going to get those calls. That wasn't Clemson's great talent or coaching ability making those plays. Those were bad. Those were either, depending on your perspective, either bad calls or they were botched plays by Ohio State. And that's their fault.
Right. Yeah, but I hear it all the time, like, the refs are in favor of Clemson. I'm sure, and I'll bet you ask most people in the world, they would rather have seen Ohio State and LSU. Ohio State's still a bigger brand name than Clemson is. So I don't think there was a great conspiracy out there for Ohio State, for the refs or anybody to have Clemson win the game.
Oh, I don't think so either. I think that's ridiculous. That is totally ridiculous, especially when you look at TV ratings and see that Ohio State usually has 4 or 5 of the top 10 TV ratings every year. So there's no reason for the TV networks or anyone involved to not want Ohio State in a national championship game.
And that's what I'm saying. I mean, I don't, that's why I say when they say it, I said, you know, y'all say I'm crazy because, I wouldn't mind seeing, I wouldn't mind seeing that Ohio State LSU game because Ohio State look like game busters coming out there. And I'm about to let you go, but my boy, Top Billing, he was explaining the difference between Okuda and, what's my boy, the boy that go get Burt Mullen. Who was the one that got burnt a lot this year? Not burnt, but they went in the first round to Atlanta. I can't remember the name off the top of my head right now.
Who went to
but
the
he was just saying that he went to Atlanta in the 16th pick. The cornerback, he had trouble with Chase.
Mullen?
And he said, y'all just look at the it's Mullen, that he had some issues this year. And against Chase, he said, you're looking at 4 plays, like he's way better than Okuda is. He was showing the differences between them two. And it's just amazing, you know, that people just pick that. And I would just have loved to see LSU Ohio State, just seeing that secondary go against LSU receivers. I wish they could have played that game. I would love to see that.
Well, that's the problem with college football, DeAndre. I would love to see all of them play each other, or more of them than we get to see. And it's easy now that LSU, they didn't really blow out Clemson. They were certainly the better team, and they stretched out the lead late. It was a good competitive game for about close to 3 quarters, something in that range. That once LSU handled Clemson, then it's easy to say, well, I wish it would have been LSU and Ohio State. But if Ohio State would have gone and gotten dusted by LSU, then we would have all been saying, well, I wish I would have gotten to see Clemson, because we just want to see the best 2 teams play. And that usually turns out to be the case, but not always. Or sometimes we don't know who the 2 best teams are.
Yeah, it's like Colorado, Nebraska in 2001. You know, a lot of people probably say, I would rather see Colorado play Nebraska. Or was it Oregon rather play Nebraska, Miami? Yeah.
Oh, we could talk about those all night. You know that. I should cut some more of those videos. I love looking into those situations.
Aren't you supposed to be doing another one? I saw you do the
I got the notes right here. 1984. I got the notes right here. I just need to cut the video.
Oh, wow. I can't wait for that one, man. That was a very interesting one. And,
Yeah.
oh, man. I was about to ask you about another one. It was Ohio State, Penn State. Ohio State finished 10-0 and Penn State finished 12. What year was that, 68?
68. Yep.
Yeah. I hope you look at that one day. I know a lot of people probably not interested, but I hope you look at it one day and go to.
That's the only problem with those, DeAndre. I love cutting those historical videos, but I don't know that a whole lot of people are on board with those, so they don't seem to do too great.
Right, yeah. I understand that. Hey, you gotta sell to your market. So, hey, man, I love the video, man. I give other people a chance to talk. I hope you enjoy the contribution, and you have a great day.
Thanks a lot, DeAndre. I appreciate it. Had a few folks trying to get through on the phone line, so please call back. 860-325-3687. I apologize. I don't have a ability to hold those calls, so thanks so much for calling back.
The call will start at the beep.
It's MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mike, it's Nate.
Hey, Nate. How are you?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm good. What's going on?
Oh, by the way, that big calls from your phone, that was me, actually.
I'm sorry. What's that?
That 3 calls from your phone was me that I was calling.
You were calling me when the show was not on the air. See, some people do that. I'll get random calls.
No. When what's his name? The last caller.
Okay. All right. Let's not be concerned with that, Nate. What's on your mind?
Okay, sorry. My mind is it's gonna get like a little interesting. It's not comfortable though. What do you think about Maryland and the little and Tua's little brother Tulia?
I think it's Talia. I think it's a great pickup for Maryland. His brother worked with Michael Loxley at Alabama. And anytime you can pick up an additional talented quarterback, especially since Maryland's quarterbacking situation, I was looking at this the other day, they have not had good quarterback play in about 15 years. They have not had a quarterback who has posted solid quarterback numbers for 15 years. The quarterback play has been abysmal at Maryland. So for them to have a chance to sign that type of player is a great transaction for Maryland.
Yeah, is that kind of the same way as Michigan? Like they haven't had a good quarterback in I don't know how many years, but like you said,
so we're talking about two different levels here. When I make the comment that Maryland has not had decent quarterback play in 15 years, that they have not had decent quarterback play. What Shea Patterson gave Michigan last year was decent quarterback play. He's a good quarterback. He's a good collegiate quarterback, and I'll argue that with anybody that Shea Patterson is a good college quarterback. He's a top 25 quarterback in the country. Is he a great quarterback? Is he an elite quarterback? No. But shoot, he is better than anything Maryland's had in 15 years. So those are on two huge different levels, the Maryland quarterback play and the Michigan quarterback play. When they had guys like Wilton Spate and Jake Rudock, they were good college quarterbacks. They were capable, so much better than anything Maryland's had. But not great quarterbacks by any stretch.
Yeah, I mean, I would look at like Shea Patterson's career. He did a good job at Michigan, but I think comparison than last year, no, I meant the year before, than his junior year, about Shea Patterson was
he was good in his junior year, but he kind of went downhill, and not necessarily downhill, but a little rougher than senior year. You know what I mean? Like he got a little rough that year, or am I kind of off on that one?
Well, Shea Patterson was allowed to play in a very high, very fast-paced, high-tempo offense at Ole Miss. And then he was brought to Michigan, and he was asked to change his game and play in a tight end, fullback-oriented offense. And then they switched the offense with Josh Gaddis coming in 2019 as offensive coordinator. And everybody was all excited about what Michigan was going to become this past year, because all the receivers and Shea Patterson himself all said, hey, this is the type of offense we're used to playing in high school. And it had some better results, but not nearly to the degree that they needed them to be.
Yeah, I know I like to hear talk about Michigan, but have you checked out, I don't know if you follow recruiting or you just follow college football in general, but I was asking if you know a little bit about J.J. McCarthy, 21 class, number 2 QB in the nation, or...
Yeah, what do you want to tell us about J.D. McCarthy?
I thought you. I was going to ask you if you think he will make an impact. I wouldn't say the upcoming next year, upcoming next year, but will he start the year after of that next year, or in your opinion?
Okay, well, just in general, any quarterback that's ranked second in the nation at his position coming out of high school is going to be expected to compete for the starting spot at almost any school in the country his freshman season, unless he goes to a school where there's a high-level entrenched starter. So, for example, if Ohio State signed the second-rated quarterback in the country, but Justin Fields was still there, he would not be competing for the job his first year, but he would be expected to be the future. But if the second-rated quarterback in the country was signed by, pick your team, Nebraska, Purdue, Maryland, we could go all over the place, he's expected to compete for the starting job in year number 1.
Yeah, I mean, he could throw the ball. I seen his highlights on YouTube. He can throw the ball from 40 or 50 yards. I mean, he's a pro-style quarterback. I know it says on 24/7. But I mean, he can throw. He could run if he has to. I mean, overall, he looks like a really, really good quarterback, actually.
Well, he must be.
Yeah. So I think that's all I have for tonight. I'll let you go and talk with other people.
Thanks, Nate.
I'll talk with you next Sunday.
We appreciate the conversation, sir. Have a great night.
You too.
All right, folks. Had 2 other calls coming in, so you can certainly call back at 860-325-3687. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's McD Sports 4. How are you doing?
Hey, McD. I'm doing well. What's going on?
I'm hearing a lot of Maryland talk throughout the show. I've been listening the whole time.
Yeah, people asking me about
Right
Maryland.
now. Yeah, I mean, first of all, Mike Locksley's not on the hot seat. There's no way he's going to get fired, in my opinion, after the 2020 season, even if it's another 3 and 9 year, because he's just recruiting too good for them everybody knows that basically they had an incident. I don't want to really get into that again, but it was a terrible incident, and they had three coaches really in 5 years, 3 different coaching philosophies, 3 different recruiting philosophies. So, and listen, is Mike Locksley a championship head coach? I don't think so. Is Mike Locksley had questions off the field at the game during the hiring process? Yes. But the reason why he was hired was because he knows the DMV area. He can recruit the DMV area, and he's proving that. So, and I don't think I do think we'll make it a bowl game in 2020.
Yeah,
I think we're too good not to.
We've got you on record for that, McD. We've got you on record for that. I just, considering what you just alluded to, that transpired under DJ Durkin, the issues off the field that we won't get into, I don't think it's a bad reflection on the program or the university. It was just a bad direction of leadership. Anyway, I find it interesting. That's not the best choice of words. I find it alarming. That's a little strong. I find it odd that they would go hire a guy that had off-field incidents and issues. And we're not talking about they're bringing in Urban Meyer. We're talking about they're bringing in 3-31 Mike Locksley, who also had off-the-field issues that caused him to be suspended at New Mexico, and they bring him in following the issues that they had in the program. Just doesn't make sense to me.
I get that. And to be honest, I wouldn't hire a 3-31 coach, but he was a special exception because he knows the area. They hired him basically because he knows the area. He knows how to recruit the DMV. That's really why they hired him. They didn't. I mean, I don't think he'll win a championship under him because I know Maryland is in the Big Ten. Thank God that president's gone this summer who made that dumb decision. And our athletic director, who is the one who hired Locksley, is now the president, and they're getting a new athletic director. So I think and one thing you're going to see, Maryland's getting new facilities, and there's going to be more focus on athletics since the past president was more focused on academics. So I think that's something to keep in mind as well. I think more money is going to be going to athletics than under the previous president's administration.
Okay. I know nothing about Maryland's situation when it involves the administration, but I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, but I do think Maryland's making a bowl game. I was going to call up and talk about some coaches on the hot seat, but Eli kind of stole my thunder. But I think if Todd Herman doesn't make a New Year's Six bowl this year, I think they should let him go. In my opinion, because he's at Texas. I mean, I hate the term blue blood so much. I don't really like that term blue blood.
Sure.
But Texas is a blue blood program, according to everybody. So, I mean, they should be at least making New Year's Six bowls or at least competing for them. I mean, this is a very crucial year for Tom Herman. If he turns in another 8-5 year, he should be gone.
Tom Herman, 8-5, should be gone. I would tend to agree because then you're looking at a situation where, you're just looking at a situation where he basically now is 4 years into it and he hasn't improved the situation. He had the one little Sugar Bowl win, great, but that's at that point 3 years in the past, and he came in and went 7-6, and then here he is still going 8-5 4 years later.
He's also 0-2 against my Terps.
Yes,
so.
He is.
Yeah. And another coach I'm hearing is Jeremy Pruitt at Tennessee possibly being on the hot seat. I'm seeing that in articles and stuff. I disagree with it, even though I can see the argument why. Because he has, I think, a really bad loss on his resume from last season. So, I'm seeing that name. It kind of reminds me of Butch Jones back after the 2016 season going into 2017. He was on the hot seat for blowing the SEC East and maybe losing a game or two he shouldn't, and then it turned really bad. I think some people might think that might happen at Tennessee. I don't think so. I think Tennessee is probably 8-4, but I think Jeremy Pruitt's show improvement has to be one of those big four opponents: Oklahoma, Florida, Alabama, or Georgia on the schedule. It has to be one of those four, I think, to show improvement.
I think that Jeremy Pruitt is recruiting so well at this point that he can have a somewhat disappointing season on the field and he'll still be okay and retained because he's recruiting just too well. If he maintains a top 5 class in the nation and they go 6-6, he's still going to keep his job.
I don't think he is, because they kind of maxed out all their recruiting spots for this upcoming season. And if you look at the point system from previous years, they're going to be around 15 in recruiting. I don't think he's going to have a top 5 recruiting class. He already maxed out.
Yeah, so you're saying basically he's gotten his commits in and everybody else still has slots to fill and they're going to rise in the rankings. Sure.
Yeah, he's going to drop, I think, significantly. I think he's ranking number 2 right now. I mean, if you look at the point system, I don't know how they do the point system exactly on 24/7, but if you look at the point system, they're projected to be around 15. If previous years, if you go off that, if I was reading it correctly.
It's still a good recruiting class.
Yeah, I mean, it's still good. The only issue is that in SEC, that's middle of the pack.
True. Yeah, that's what we were talking about with Arkansas and South Carolina being near the bottom of the SEC in recruiting, even though they're top 20 or 25 in the nation. Yep.
Yeah, I thought you just posted my comment up there. This Dave Dorman guy at NC State, if this guy does not make a bowl game, he should be gone. Did you see his ACC record?
I know what his records are, McD. Yeah, I know what his record is. 1-7 in the ACC this last year.
His overall record in the ACC.
I have never ranked him that high as an ACC coach. I don't exactly remember what my rankings were last year, but I think I had him 10th or 11th in the ACC.
That sounds about right. He's 21-35 in the ACC going into this season.
Basically, as you know, the NC State has a formula for making bowl games, and it's beating up on 4 really bad non-conference games and then going like 3-5 in the league. And that's what he's done. When you look at 21-35, that's going 3-5 every year. That's what he's done.
Yeah.
And then they win the 4 non-conference games against East Tennessee type teams, and maybe one bad Power 5 possibly, and they go 7-5. That's typically the formula.
Well, the Power 5 he's facing this year, he's going to lose to. I think he's losing to Mississippi State. I know it's Riley. I just think Mike Leach is just going to out-coach him. He's really not a good coach. I couldn't believe when I saw that record. And another interesting thing you might not know is Chip Kelly has a bad record as well at UCLA, but all 7 of his wins are in the Pac-12. He is 0-4 in the non-con, which I found extremely interesting.
McD, why would you say that this is something that I probably don't know?
Well, I just found it interesting.
All right. So North Carolina State this past season played East Carolina, West Virginia, and Ball State in the non-conference. And consider West Virginia had one of its worst teams in years this last year, 5-7. and I believe 2-7 in the 3-6 or 2-7 in the Big 12. And West Virginia beat them by 17 points. The year before, in 2018, they played James Madison, Georgia State, Marshall, and East Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, as they say, a bad non-conference schedule can disguise a very bad team.
Yeah, that's pretty much what they've done.
And, I mean, but, I mean, when I saw that record, I was like, how is no one saying this guy should be on the hot seat?
Yeah, you should be able to if you're North Carolina State, and sure, Clemson's going to whack you every year. I get that. But Florida State's been down for 3 years, so that's no longer an automatic loss, or shouldn't be. And then you've got a division with a bunch of Boston College, Syracuse, Louisville type teams that are supposed to be on par with you, or in Syracuse and Boston College case, not even as good as you. Why can't you go better than 500 in the ACC and to go 21-35? It's awful.
I mean, I was just stunned by that, but yeah. I think he should be on the highest seat.
They never play anybody. They never play anybody except for the Notre Dame game, obviously, that they're forced to play. 2015, they played Troy, Eastern Kentucky, Old Dominion, and South Alabama. 2016, they played William and Mary, East Carolina, and Old Dominion. Awful.
I mean, my God. I mean, if he's, I'm serious. If NC State doesn't make a bowl game, and if he keeps his job, it's a disgrace.
You've inspired me to cut a Dave Doran video. I might just rail on Dave Doran for like 10 minutes.
He's not good. I'm telling you, he's not really a good head coach. Yeah, I mean, it's a bunch of myths, basically.
Unlike you, D, I am going to spell his name correctly, though.
Yeah, I think there's an E in there.
There's an E in there, sure.
Yeah, it's D-O-E-R-E-N, I think. But I'm typing fast, keep up with the chat and stuff. But, yeah, I mean, I was going to call him and talk about that coaches on the hot seat, but I think he should definitely be on the hot seat. Here's the problem with Muschamp. The problem with Muschamp is that I look at his tenure at South Carolina is very similar to his tenure at Florida right now. Yeah. He's going to year 5. He had 4-8 at Florida and turned around and had a 7-5 at Florida, and then he let him go. But then after that, those recruiting classes that he recruited won the SEC East. So I'm interested to see what happens in South Carolina. Personally, I think he should be on the hot seat. But if it's a very tough schedule, and if he goes 5-7, I do think I will lean towards maybe keeping him another year.
Yep.
Only because I think he can recruit well.
Yeah. Yep, and he's obviously a great defensive mind. One gimmicky thing that will never take place, and I wouldn't want it to because I like the integrity of the conferences, but it would be very interesting just if we could maybe move one team out of each conference every year to go play in another conference and just see how they do. Because I think of like a South Carolina, and I think, what would they do in the ACC? They're almost an ACC from a geographic standpoint, an ACC team. If they went into the ACC, you put them in the Coastal Division. Why couldn't they compete for the Coastal Division championship?
Yeah, I mean, they're just in a really tough situation, I think, right now with the schedule and the conference they're in. But I don't think they're as bad as advertised South Carolina. Like, any program in the country, I think, will be forced not to hire Will Muschamp as at least as a defensive assistant or head of recruiting. I mean, he can really recruit there at South Carolina. But basically, I just want to call up, defend Mike Loxley, and then we got off on a tangent about Dave Doran and a few other coaches. But that's all I really have, Mark. Thanks for taking my call. Go Terps for making a bowl game.
Thanks, McD. Appreciate it. whoever was on there trying to call in, please go ahead and give me a call back at 860-325-3687. JT Sports, I have certainly never seen your handle from what I can remember. I apologize if you have commented in the past, but thank you so much for the super chat. It is much, very much appreciated. Thank you so much, JT Sports. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
What's up, Mark? It's JT Sports.
Oh, JT Sports. Well, thank you. I was not knowing that you were on the line, and thank you so much for the super chat.
No problem, man. So this morning, I was watching one of your videos.
Yep.
And I was just reflecting. I was like, you still hear me?
You're kind of breaking up a little bit, but I think I got you.
Okay, you hear me? You hear me clear now?
I hear you okay.
All right, hold on. I'm gonna call back. Hold on.
Call back. Oh, here we go. All right.
The call will start at the beep.
Hey, it's Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
It's me again.
All right.
The audio better?
You're sounding good. What's up?
So I was watching one of your videos because you always upload Miami Hurricane videos at 5 in the morning for some reason. And I was watching and I was like, man, like I just graduated high school and I just was reflecting. I was like, man, I remember when I first started watching Mark Rogers, I was in 8th grade, man. I was in middle school. I remember watching this man, and now years later, he was at what, like 4,000, 5,000 subscribers. Now you're at almost 20K, man. I was just reflecting. I was like, dang, man, Mark Rogers came a long way.
Well, we got a long ways to go, but I appreciate that. We're doing our best. We just keep up the grind every day and hope it goes in the right direction.
Yeah, so I got 3 quick topics I want. So the first topic is Oregon needs to take North Dakota State off the schedule. Like they got the best excuse why, because listen, Oregon wants to be a football team, but trust me, they don't want to be that North Dakota State team. Trey Lance, that dude is the absolute Mark. You know Trey Lance did not throw an interception last year in a 16-game regular season playoffs and all, no interception.
I did not know that. I'm going to look that up right now. I want to see a stat line.
This man threw no interceptions. Like, Oregon needs to take North Dakota State off the schedule. Like, they have no reason why they need to play North. Like, I don't understand why Oregon will play them. Like, there's no reason really to play them. Like, if you beat them, okay, you're going to be known. You're going to be like, okay, that's the team they're supposed to be. But if you lose to them, then that basically ends your playoff season right there.
28 touchdowns, no picks.
No, and I think he was even impressive on the ground too. I think he had like over 1,000 rushing yards or something.
Yes, he did. 1,100 yards, 6.4 yards per carry, 14 touchdowns.
Yeah, so I mean, if you're Oregon, you need to take North Dakota State off the schedule, man. I mean, you got the perfect excuse. There's a lot of pandemics going on. You don't know what's going to happen with the schedule and things like that. So just go ahead and take them off the schedule. We appreciate you guys, but we'll pass on it because you don't get nothing out of playing North Dakota State besides just a tune-up game early on in the season. And early on in the season is really when a lot of upsets happen because you what was it? I believe it was on that almost upset on Michigan, which they basically beat Michigan, but I mean Michigan. I don't know what happened on the end. I'm just voted. But I mean, if you're Oregon, they should go ahead and take them off the schedule. Now, my biggest thing is I want to defend Jim Harbaugh for a second, right? Because I feel Jim Harbaugh gets too much flack that he does not deserve. So, Jim Harbaugh is what? He's like in his 40s or something like that. So,
52. 52, 54, something like that.
So, a lot of college football fans now, Harbaugh on the hot seat. Michigan before Jim Harbaugh got there was the absolute mess. Like, they were an absolute mess.
You get there, your first season, you go 10-3. I believe they came close. They were like a fumble. I remember they were playing Michigan State. They had like a last-second fumble that basically sealed their fate. But if it wasn't for that last-second fumble, I believe they probably would have went to the Big Ten championship game that year, right?
So you're right on the first point and wrong on the second point. So Michigan's first year, they went 9-3 in the regular season in Jim Harbaugh's first year in 2015. Okay, they got blown out by Ohio State. They would not have gone to the Big Ten championship game, but they did. So the situation against Michigan State was that they were up by, I believe, 4 or 5, 6 points, whatever it was. It doesn't matter exactly how many points, 4 or 5 or 6 points. I'm trying to think what the final score of the game was. I think it was 27-26. I think they were up 26-20. Anyway, whatever it was, or 24-20, they were lined up in punt formation with like 8 seconds left in the game, and all the punter had to do was catch the ball and fall down. He didn't even have to get the punt off, and he tossed the ball up, and he fumbled the snap, or it was a bad snap, and he scurried around and got nervous, and he just flung the ball straight up in the air, and Michigan State picked it off and ran it for a touchdown. It was just a complete fluke play, and that's how Michigan lost that game. Yep.
Okay. But even then, like, my point is, look, Michigan fan, it really makes no sense to fire Harbaugh because, like, why would you fire a coach who has you right there, man? Because if you fire him, then you have to bring in a whole entire new coaching staff, a whole entire new head coach, and then that coach may not be a Harbaugh. He may make Michigan take a step back. So, I mean, it really makes no sense to fire Harbaugh unless you fire Harbaugh and you're getting like a Urban Meyer or somebody of that caliber that you know can get you over that hump. But really, I just think Ohio State is just a juggernaut right now. I mean, Ohio State is a football factory right now. But eventually, Harbaugh is going to get over the hump. But I just don't think it makes a lot of sense to fire Harbaugh just because he just can't be one team. And also, he has had some, well, I wouldn't even call them underachieving seasons because Michigan, he tried to run that Michigan program fairly fast. So, I mean, I don't understand the reason why fire Harbaugh when you're right there, like you're right there at that, like you're literally right there. You're just, all they got to do is beat Ohio State. So it really doesn't make no sense to get rid of them. And then bring in another coach unless you give him an Urban Meyer, and then you would take a step back.
Well, I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you in regards to I would not fire Jim Harbaugh for going 9-3 and 10-2 just about every year he's been there. So these are his regular season records since 2015. So he's gone 9-3, and they won a bowl game, so they finished 10-3. Then in 2016, so your best argument actually is the 2016 season is the game that they outplayed Ohio State, would have gone to the Big Ten championship and been a big favorite to go to the college football playoff, and that was the year that they got the questionable measurement on the fourth down JT Barrett play at the end of regulation, that if it would have been measured differently, they would have won the game. The game would have been over. It was a fourth down play. The game would have been over. They would have been the Big Ten champions or gone to Indianapolis, been a big favorite against Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship game, and most likely would have gone then to the playoff. They would have gone to the playoff if they would have won the Big Ten championship. That's your best argument there. 2016, he lost on an official's measurement. And obviously he can't control that.
And then my last question for you is, okay, so I want to make a video, right? And I've been thinking about doing this for this time, but like I keep going back and forth with this because I don't want to sound crazy. So you mind if I run it by you real quick?
Absolutely. What you got?
So I want to make a video about how Minnesota could be the next Clemson. Now it may sound crazy, but here's my reason, right? So when Dabo Swinney first got hired, a lot of people didn't really like the hire. Like, what was he like? Was he a special teams coach or position coach?
I believe he was the wide receiver coach.
Yeah, and nobody liked the hire. Like, everybody just thought Dabo Swinney was a raw guy and things like that. So when I remember first watching college football, Clemson, I remember the top score when they were consistently like a 9-10 win team. And then the biggest hurdle was, I think it was them unable to beat Florida State, wasn't it?
Yes.
So they had that hurdle. That was when he was known as like the biggest fraud in college football, the kind of things like that. Because people just thought he was just another raw guy, things like that. And Clemson would never get over the hump. What Todd Boyd used, you bring in Deshaun Watson, right? Then that year they go to the national championship game, right? Then they go back to back. They went back to back.
Yes, 2015 and 16.
So that 2016 team, didn't they have like a lot of returning seniors and a lot of like upperclassmen?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. Yeah.
So with Clemson, right? So he built that program up. That program had a lot of experience, a lot of upperclassmen. Yeah, they lost a few guys to the NFL at that point, like guys like Jimmy Watkins and DeAndre Hopkins and things like that. But they would bring in consistent recruiting classes, right? When they bring back a lot of upperclassmen that year, they won championships. Well, when you look at this Minnesota team, right? This Minnesota team has almost all the two starters returning on the offense this year. They lost Rodney Smith, who was undrafted, he played for Carolina, and they lost Tyler Johnson, who plays for Tampa Bay. He got drafted in the second round. So this offense basically has nearly the same team for all the two guys. And they got talent. Like, they got NFL talent on the offensive line. Like, they got one of their offensive tackles like 6'9" or 6'8" or 6, some crazy stat. He's big. He's like 6'8", 400 pounds, and like he has like a lot of NFL scouts drooling over him. Then you have the NFL caliber offensive line, and Mark, every offensive lineman besides one, who I believe they started like a 4-star freshman last year, but other than him, every offensive lineman that they have returning this season has played in 10 or more games the last 2 seasons. So you have probably one of the best offensive lines in college football. You have a lot of experience on the offensive side of the ball. You got Tanner Morgan. So you got the experience there. Now, you lost some guys on the defense side of football, but I believe they should be able to make that up because of how good of a coaching staff they have. Then you compare that with the experience that Clemson had. Now, a lot of people may argue and say, well, they didn't have the NFL talent that Clemson had. And I can understand that, but I don't think it's too far off because they have a really good offensive line. Like a lot of guys on the offensive line will be playing on Sunday. You got Rashad Bateman, who a lot of people are saying will end up being a top 10 pick when the 2021 NFL draft rolls around. So you got talent. And then you got P.J. Fleck. Now, P.J. Fleck, a lot of people, like, early on, well, from my experience, when I said Minnesota was going to pull off the upset versus Penn State, a lot of Penn State fans came on, and they told me I was an idiot. They say P.J. Fleck was the biggest fluke of college football. He was nothing but a bona fide car salesman. Then they go ahead and they beat Penn State. He proves a lot of people wrong. He still has doubters. Just like how Dabo Swinney had doubters. Like a lot of people thought he was just a raw guy. A lot of people think P.J. Fleck just a bona fide car salesman. Now you look at his Minnesota team, they got experience, they got talent, and in all honesty, if I was a betting man and I had to choose one team to bet that had a good chance that I believe could beat Ohio State, it would be Minnesota. Like, I love Wisconsin and everything, but until that offense is able to actually show me that, like, they can actually have consistent passing attack, I'll never really put my faith in them. Although they did give them a little bit of a chance, Minnesota is probably the only team I think I trust to beat Ohio State. And I'm not saying they will, because we know Ohio State will probably beat Minnesota, but I'm just saying I think Minnesota, out of all the teams in the Big Ten, I think to give Ohio State a legitimate challenge in the Big Ten championship game. And then, like, you look at the recruiting classes and things like that. So it's like the similarities, like, they're close. I'm not saying they're exactly the same, but like the situations and things like that, they're kind of similar. So, like, am I far off or?
Okay, so you're talking about there's a difference between being good as Clemson for 1 year, like having a perfect storm where you get the right schedule and you've got a strong junior and senior class to be able to kind of build to that crescendo and put everything together for 1 year to have a real special season versus sustaining it for years and years and years. What are you talking about? You're talking about Minnesota putting together one season like in 2020 or 2021 that's like a Clemson kind of season, or building a program that's going to sustain it for 5 or 6 years?
Yeah, I think I'm leaning more towards, that's tough. I think I'm leaning more towards like building into a sustainable program, basically becoming a powerhouse.
Okay. Well, I'm going to put one roadblock in front of you that's huge, and it's called recruiting.
Mm-hmm.
So
But
the
I'm-
advantage
but, like-
that Clemson has that Minnesota doesn't have is geography.
That does make a lot of sense. Because Clemson is in Carolina, and Carolina is in a good spot when it comes to recruiting. So, like, they could easily. That makes a lot of sense.
Florida, etc.
Yeah, but I mean, Minnesota, like, they're recruiting pretty good. Like, they're getting like 4-star guys and things like that. But it makes a lot of sense. Yeah. That does make a lot of sense. That does. I get your point, bro. I get your point. Because, like, since like, they're so close to, like, basically where all the good 5-star, 4-star guys are, and they're so close to proximity, like, they don't have to travel as far as Minnesota has to travel to, like, Minnesota travel all the way to IMG to get 2 IMG guys. So, I mean, like, Clemson, like, they can just send guys out on the regular versus in-state. Like, they basically got to fly all around the country and things like that, several places and things like that. Versus Clemson, like, basically the talent's just right there. Then occasionally you'll make a couple of trips, maybe out west, and maybe you snag, like, a guy from Texas or California.
There you go.
Okay.
All right, man.
Thanks for that, man. Because, like, I didn't want to, like, make the video and then, like, sound crazy and things like that. So it makes a lot of sense.
Don't let me discourage you from making a video. Go ahead and make your video.
I got you, man. I got you. I just want to make sure, like, it made a little bit of sense because I didn't want to come out there and talk crazy and things like that.
Well, I appreciate it. You have a great night. Thanks for the phone call. Thanks for the contribution. I appreciate it all.
You too, man.
Have a good night. All right. I'm going to run through these comments, and then I believe that's about going to be about it. Thank you so much for joining us. We've got Florida State Talk coming up on Tuesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern Time, and we've got a ton of videos coming your way. And it looks like we'll sneak in one more phone call. Hey, it's Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line? Hello? Who's on the line? Can't exactly hear who's on the line, but please turn down the your phone or your laptop, whatever's got the.
Is it better now?
There we go. Yeah.
Okay.
How's it going?
Hey, Mark Rogers is NBA fan.
NBA fan, what's going on, man?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. Yeah, so I've got this kind of hunch about individual receiver production at OSU and how this might be the best season possibly for that. I got this topic from MarkRogersTV, from the Buckeye Weekly podcast with Doug Lemarie's
Okay.
and everything like that, and they were talking about the topic stemmed from, like, did you think it was more likely that OSU had a top, like Sean Wade won a fourth award, or the receivers winning the Bolitnikoff? I think that Sean Wade personally is closer to winning the fourth award as opposed to receiver winning the Bolitnikoff, but I think this might be the best season that an individual receiver at Ohio State has had up to date. And I've got these 3 points to it. And after I say this, I just want to hear, like, your opinions on it. So the 3 points are, due to the lack of faith in the running back room, this is probably going to be the most planted running shift that we've seen so far. And then I'll say Justin Fields is probably be the best quarterback we've seen so far. And then they're also relying on the most inexperienced receiver group. They normally like to rotate a lot. They normally go 6 deep, but they've only got 2 receivers that have contributed on a somewhat consistent level in Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave. So you think that they shift more to sets that, you know what I'm saying, emphasize their strength offensively, which would be with those 2 wide receivers and their quarterback, who would presumably be the best in the nation. So all of this is planned leading to the best season individually, statistically, for a receiver ever at Ohio State.
Okay.
What do you think about
So
that?
if I'm getting this straight, NBA fan, you're concerned about who's going to win the Biletnikoff or the Thorpe Award at Ohio State.
Say it again.
So if I'm getting this straight, you are concerned about who may win the Thorpe or the Biletnikoff Award at Ohio State.
No, basically, like that was what sparked it. But I'm just saying, I think that this would be the best individual season from receiver so far. And then that's something different, you know.
Yeah, because anytime anybody calls in and asks me about individual awards, you know, if it's the Heisman, I'll certainly entertain the conversation. And I've cut videos in the past on the Heisman just because it's the Heisman. But I don't have a whole lot of thoughts about what other people are voting on awards. You know, it's in the hands of the voters. So you're basically telling me that it's more likely that an Ohio State defensive back is going to win the Thorpe Award than win the Biletnikoff.
Right, but I was just wondering, like, what your opinion would be on Ohio State having, like, the greatest receiver individual season that we've seen so far, and if that logic, like, makes sense.
Well, the factors involved are that they consistently are having more prolific passing offensive seasons than they've ever had, starting with Dwayne Haskins in 2018. You know, the last 2 are the most prolific seasons they've had out of quarterbacks ever. You know, when has an Ohio State quarterback thrown for 50 touchdowns or even 41 last year with Justin Fields? So just from a statistical standpoint, just everybody's having better statistical seasons at every school in the nation for the most part. Their quarterbacks, wide receivers, and running backs, because the type style of football just lends itself to more numbers, higher numbers, better numbers offensively. But because of the talent of the position and the depth of the position, they tend to spread it out and not have a guy catch 113 balls like Rondell Moore did 2 years ago. That doesn't happen.
Yeah, but at the same time, we've never had, like, if we wanted to go 6 deep, realistically, we'd be relying on somewhat heavy production from at least, like, 2 true freshman wide receivers. And let's say 2 of them don't pop, and they have to now rely on, you know what I'm saying, those, you know, the ones that they know would be productive in high-leverage situations. And, you know, they did, you know, they went in sets that emphasized those 2 players, you know. Or more tight end. You know what I'm saying? It's just not going to be, I'm just saying it's not going to be so spread out, just based off the fact that they're relying on way more freshman talent or just inexperienced talent than they do.
Okay.
In the wide receiver.
Yeah, I can buy your opinion, but I do not expect an Ohio State wide receiver to win the. You know, if you're going to give me Ohio State or the field, I'll take the field. But certainly an Alabama wide receiver did 2 years ago, and an LSU receiver this past year. So it can happen.
Mm-hmm. All right. And the last thing I wanted to say was, it was about, like, Jim Harbaugh in, like, Michigan. Right. So, I mean, at a certain point, right, like, it's shifting to where, like, we know they're not going to beat Ohio State. Like, Ohio State is recruiting at an insane level. Like, every concern that you could have, like, oh, what's his name? Randall was a new coach, inexperience here, there. Like, it always seems to skew in OSU's favor. They won, like, 10 straight or whatever. and that doesn't seem to change. So at a certain point, when will they think about bringing in another coach? Like, would you be opposed to them bringing in like Matt Campbell or something like that? You know what I'm saying? Putting a lot of resources and everything behind him. You know what I'm saying? There's at least that there's that spark or that entry by the unknown, as opposed to, you know what I'm saying? You kind of know what you're getting into with Harbaugh, like disappointment, basically. You know what I'm saying? So why not why not change it up instead of settling for something you're not okay with?
I thought Jim Harbaugh was a great hire, but he's not turned out to be a great hire. He's been a good hire. He's upgraded the recruiting, the program. The record is obviously much better than it was, and it has been since 2006. But he's not winning championships, and now he's had 5 years to do it. And certainly the first few can be forgiven because he didn't have his players on the roster, but now he does. And I don't know if they're never going to beat Ohio State. When you say that there's a gap, you're certainly right. There is a gap, a significant gap between a substantial or decided gap between the two programs and the talent level on the roster. But
in like every aspect.
In every aspect. But can anything happen in one game? To a certain extent, yes. Did Iowa beat Ohio State with much less talent? Did Purdue beat Ohio State with much less talent? So Michigan can do it because they're miles better than those two teams, especially the Purdue team.
They prepare for Michigan every day of the year.
Sure, they do. But also understand that the teams were extremely close in 2016 on the field. You know, that there have been two extreme blowouts the last 2 years. And they're alarming, and it's not a good sign. It's not a good look, and it shows that they're basically significant separation between the two programs, but it is 2 games.
Yeah, but at the same time, 2016, you could argue, was the worst year of the Urban Meyer era. Like in terms of talent,
Sure.
and just in terms of talent, I'll say that.
And the offense was not good. Yep.
Right. So, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Recent trends show that we're not going to see anything that'll skew towards 2016 in terms of the roster makeup, offensive emphasis. Like, we're not going to, you know what I'm saying, force feed one player. Like, there's nothing that, you know what I'm saying? Well, why not try a new coach, like a new spunky coach? You know what I'm saying? Who, you know, we can hope is going to be good. He has, like, you know what I'm saying? Those, like, Dabo-esque tactics. Like, why not, like, him?
I'll say what I've said a number of times, that Jim Harbaugh's upgraded the program. He could have beaten Ohio State in 2016. That was the one game that was kind of taken out of his hands. I'm not saying that they got ripped off. I'm just saying that that measurement could have gone either way. But that's dead and gone. It's his one big shot, and things didn't break his way. It's not like he made a poor decision or there was a play made against him. It was just a judgment call. It was a measurement. So that was the one big chance that slipped by him, but it's long gone, and he's got to recover from that. And now the gap's widened. So the way things are looking right now, he's going to go 9-3 and 10-2 and not catch Ohio State. So is Michigan fine with that? I got to think that they're not. They're paying him way too much money. But because of his past success and because of him being Jim Harbaugh, a favorite son there, they're probably going to give him a little bit more time than they would anybody else. If I'm running the show and paying him top 3 to 4 money in the nation, then I'm paying him to win championships, and his time's running out. Even if he goes 10-2, at some point in the next 2 or 3 years, I'm going to say, okay, that was the last one. We're 0-7 against Ohio State. We've not gone to a Big Ten championship game. Yeah, I don't care that you just went 10-2 this year, or even 11-1. Although it's tough to fire a guy after 11-1. That's it.
Yeah. So, and my last question would be, like, so, let's say Tom Herman, you know what I'm saying, he has a bad season, or Texas just gets tired of mediocrity, right? And they let him go. Where do you think his career trajectory would be from there? Do you think he go down? Do you think he go down to like group of five team, or do you think he'd like become like a offensive coordinator again at like a major program, or you know?
I'm trying to think if there's anybody that we could liken to Tom Herman. I'm not coming up with that guy that's been at that substantial of a program and has not bombed, but he's also not succeeded, and what's happened to him. I would think that Tom Herman could go to easily would be snatched up by the level of program of an NC State as a head coach.
All right. My last thing is, what do you expect from Zach Harrison? Like, do you think he's on the same career trajectory as like the other superstar he is? Like, I don't know if I'm sold on him as a pure pass rusher, but as an athlete, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Who are we talking
ran
about?
like a 4.45. Huh?
Who are we talking about?
Zach Harrison.
Oh, Zach Harrison.
Yeah, so I mean, he's got elite athleticism. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, generational athleticism. I think he can just be an all-encompassing impact player at that position, but I don't know as a pass rusher how he'll be. But do you think he can have like a similar impact just in different aspects of the game from that position?
Well, I can only go by the recruiting rankings and the scouting reports because I haven't really seen him play. He's not played enough football that much. And he could make a ton of money someday just being, I don't want to say a one-dimensional player. You can't be one-dimensional, but being a average run defender and an elite guy off the edge.
All right, well, thanks for answering my call, Mark.
Thanks, NBA.
Have a good night.
I appreciate it. You too. All right, folks, we appreciate it. Tuesday night, 7 o'clock Eastern time. In the meantime, we've got all sorts of football coming your way. Videos posted on, I'm going to start team previews. Maryland, Nebraska, Michigan's coming, Arkansas, and others. And our SEC coaches rankings are coming. We've got a Penn State and Boston College preview for 2020. All sorts of good stuff coming. Whoever's calling right now, I apologize. I am done for the night. We will see you very soon. Of course, our call-in show is on Sunday night, specifically at 10 o'clock Eastern time, but I would love to add to this and do even more call-in shows. This is what I love to do more than anything else. We'll see you soon.